Alright guys, this is where the first kind of error crept in, and they've been asked to follow signs. You can see the signboard there on the left hand side towards Brent Cross, or hey, this one says Edgware Mill Hill, and nice lorry and truck just pulling out in front of us. That's just great. But yeah, they start in the correct lane, going right third exit, and then you'll shortly see student joins the roundabout, lovely, stays on the right lane, and then just kind of changes lanes a little bit awkwardly afterwards, but nothing dangerous. No one was sort of cut up, which is key. So you can see they've positioned, they've angled themselves well, and then once it's safe to go, hopefully we'll start moving up, and then yeah, they joined the roundabout quite well. So I can't really fault them for that. So here we go. They haven't cut any other lanes. They've gone all the way to the inside lane. You can see the arrows on the ground, so it's perfect. So the first exit's gone, second exit's there, and then the third exit's on the left, and then the fourth one is towards Edgware and Brent Cross. So you can literally stay in this lane. Look on the ground, there's an arrow literally said you can go straight. So you could have stayed in that lane. All these three lanes, there's 4 lanes later on in total, and then these 3 lanes will kind of will take you towards it. So you can see on the ground you got 1, 2, 3 lanes, but look, they've kind of gone left a bit, right a bit now in the middle, and then they might change lanes shortly. So they've stayed well here, and then I think they go back to the left lane shortly, which are meant to do anyway. But you can see a little bit of indecision before. But then they carried on all the way towards Apex, and then I'll resume the commentary in a bit. So the examiner didn't mark them down for that roundabout because they changed lanes well in the end, even though there's a little bit of indecision, but there was no one affected. So the student had progressed all the way, but it's the next roundabout which is key and really, really important. So just have a look, and shortly, in a couple of minutes, you'll see that roundabout coming up. So have a look on the right. If you pause it, you can see there's signs there saying Edgware. It's also on the ground as well, which is written Edge. So students in the perfect lane. You can see the slight differences in the lane markings on the left hand side compared to the other lanes. So the left hand lane is going somewhere else. And then as we progress towards Apex roundabout, now student is in the correct lane for going straight ahead, second exit towards Edgware. If you notice on the ground, keep an eye on the road markings. All right, you can see it says Edge. All right, it's got straight arrow. That left lane slips off to the left. We are now technically on the left lane. We're meant to stay on the left, positioned well, and then just cut straight across into the middle, which is wrong. On the ground it says A41. Now the students are a bit lost. They're meant to go on that left exit there, but they've kind of gone now into the third lane, come back into the middle. Now they've exited, and then now they're going to come back to the left lane. So that, as you can see, was a big mess. But yeah, bit of a shame. They've just waited for that vehicle, and then now they're coming back to the left lane. So lane changing wise, when they're on a straight, as you can see, students quite aware of any cars around them. Clearly didn't cut in front of that car, but unfortunately on the roundabout they would get completely lost. Started perfectly in that left lane, followed the signs for Edgware, and then all of a sudden just got lost. But yeah, that's a shame, and that was where the error was. But the examiner could see the nerves just really, really kicking in, and then yeah, that was the end of the test really. But yeah, I kind of commend the student for continuing. They've done really, really well to get through the whole test, despite deep down probably knowing that they've made that error. But it's quite hard once you know that you've almost failed. But number one rule, never think that you failed. Continue all the way to the end, and let the examiners make that decision. That's their job, not yours. Hey guys, so this is where the error happens. You can see this car right in front of us on the left, and the student's waiting for the van to go, and then as they leave, they don't turn out enough, and the examiner has to move them out a little bit. That was all it was, literally. Bit of a shame. A real shame, actually. I mean, so close to the end. Yeah, a bit late, unfortunately. But hopefully, guys, you guys can learn from that. Make sure that you clear those parked cars more than you think you need to. All right, that's the key. Okay, guys, this was a really early morning, 7 o'clock in the morning test. Bit difficult, as you can tell, super tight road. This is Green Lane in Hendon, and there's a little bit of a trick later on. Sorry, this isn't Green Lane, but this leads on to Green Lane later on. The mistake was getting close to the car again on the left-hand side. There'll be an island further ahead, and the student is planning to clear the island, but there's a silver car on the left, and they should have just delayed it a little. You can just see a slight movement to the right in the car if you go back in the video again, and that was the examiner pushing the steering wheel away from that parked vehicle. So simple error, real shame. Rest of the drive was actually spot on. So yeah, learn from that again, and make sure you do not get close to parked cars. Okay, guys, hopefully I mentioned this just earlier, but this is where the first error occurs. The student is going to be asked to turn right, fourth exit at the roundabout, and as they approach, generally you should always know you go onto the right hand side. However, most students for some reason think that this is a two-way section, but this is one section, and then on the complete right hand side there's another area. So this is all one way, so it should have been on the right hand side. As you can see, they're going right, then they cut into the lane a little bit and they go all the way around. Yeah, really simple, silly error. I remember this happening about 6-7 years ago actually to a student, but happens. They never do this sort of stuff. They've always gone right from the right hand lane, but again, pressure of a test, unfortunately. So you can see how simple that was. Make sure you stay on the right if you ever go to the right, but generally a lot of students for some reason think that's a two-way section on the other side. So yeah, real shame. That was simple. Hey guys, hopefully I've mentioned this at the start of the video, but this is where the fault occurs. It's a meeting scenario, and then the car is coming towards us, as you can see. Now, we should technically be waiting here, but unfortunately a student pulled over on the right hand side to give way to the car, and that shouldn't be done. The car that was coming should have gone onto that side and waited for us to go through. So a really simple error. Weirdly, never done that before in our lesson. So it's a real shame. I think it was just a bit of pressure on the test, but that's the first time that's happened on a test that I've seen. But yeah, it's a real shame. Yeah, apart from that, just I thought I'd highlight that moment, so you can carry on watching the rest. All right, guys, this is where the error happens, and student just comes up to join the dual carriageway. You will see very shortly a car, sort of silver car, I think it is, coming across. There you go, that's the one, and they've just come into the lane. So it's hard to see in the rear view camera as well, but they were basically in the left-hand lane. Student has kind of misjudged it and come out, and then they've had to change lanes and come back. If you go back in it and have a look, you'll see that it was quite sudden when the car just shot past us, so you can see how close they were already, probably traveling at about 40-50 miles an hour, while we're joining at pretty much 0. So yeah, that was the only error, which was a massive shame because the rest of the drive was literally spot on. So I was a bit upset for the student, because that could have just easily been avoided, but it's easy to say in hindsight. That's life. And gave them a lot of confidence because they realized at least that they were really ready for the test. So yeah, hopefully get another one booked up soon. Okay, what you've just probably seen already is the student approaching a roundabout. They were meant to follow signs for Watford, which is on the right hand side, but they've approached on the left hand side because they've got confused with the direction from the sat nav. Examiner had sort of made a clarification and told them that we're going to be going right, but they've stayed on the left side. and they should have then followed signs for Harrow or Stanmore, but have shifted over, as you can see, from the left lane into the right lane, and then that's caused the major fault. So again, another little issue with staying in your lanes. Unfortunately, due to pressure maybe or confusion with the sat nav, the lane changing has occurred. The student kind of realized their fault even after when the examiner mentioned it, so it's a bit of a shame. So always just remember, if you start on the left, then generally you should be going left first exit or straight ahead second exit. And if you start on the right lane, you should be going right third exit or right fourth exit, etc. Also, you can also go right second exit. That depends on the wordings of the sat nav sometimes. So yeah, just bear that in mind and stay consistent with your lanes, and be careful of lane changing randomly. Hey guys, right, this is where the error occurs. We're coming up to Spur roundabout, which is kind of in Edgware, Stanmore sort of sides, and student has to go right second exit. And what happens is you'll see a cutaway in a second where in the rear view mirror there'll be a blue car. So as the student goes into the middle lane, he kind of shifts over a little bit here and there, and then you'll see the blue car is trying to overtake, can't overtake. So the student started in this lane for London, then straddles it a little bit. The car behind is thinking of overtaking on the inside. Then the student cuts a little bit to the inside. Then the blue car is blocked, and it's just a mess. Had they just stayed a little bit more to the left in that middle lane, they would have been absolutely fine. If you go back and look at it again and again, you will see that the student just straddles the line or the lane a little bit and blocks the car from overtaking, and that caused the fail. Real shame. Super simple. And they started off in the correct lane, and then obviously just went over, which is a bit of a shame. The main thing is, what you guys need to take away from this is you have to stay in your lane. There are lane lines for a reason, and if you need to leave it for any reason, obviously you can go to third exit and then shift over when you're exiting. But if you need to leave, mirrors, signal, and see if it's safe to move over. So don't change these lanes and markings without safety checks and signaling. And if you can do all of that, then even then generally there's that saying of safely on, safely off on the roundabouts. So I've known students to go from a wrong lane all the way around and they've come off safely, but there's been no cars around. They've kind of looked around everywhere, signaled correctly, etc., and managed to get away with getting off safely. So stay in your lanes. If you're going to change lanes or if you're going to move, make sure you're checking around. Okay, they're markings for a reason. Hey guys, this is the part I was mentioning at the start of the test where the student's going to come up to a roundabout and they are going to be asked to go straight ahead, but the markings on the ground clearly show that this is a left only. So obviously you have to go left only or change lanes in advance. But you'll see now in the pop-up screen that there was a truck behind who was going straight, who's in the correct lane, and because we went from the left-hand only lane and shifted over, then that truck has now been affected. So that was basically the reason behind the fail, which is an absolute shame because we'd done that route the day before, exact same roundabout, and the student aced all of them. There's a few of them in Pinner like these, and the student nailed it. So it's just a really weird glitch, unfortunately. And as soon as the student did it, they were telling me that they realized straight away. You'll notice here they have to go I think left at this roundabout into Morrison's, and they picked the correct lane, and they're fine, and so had no issues at all in the test. Really good drive, and then a bit of a shame, unfortunately. But yeah, that's life.